Welcome to the second lesson where we'll discuss examples and where to use isometric design. I'm pretty sure that all of you saw isometric designs at least once in a lifetime. As you can see here, I keep the authors of these works because it's also important maybe to go and appreciate if you want to like this work, and will be able to find these people on Dribble, for example. So as you can see here, there is an isometric design with mobile app and also with a mock-up of the phone. Looks incredible, looks absolutely different. So where to use isometric design? Use it to present your works in a little bit different way, because of course you can present it in the front view, which is perfect. This is important to show how your design look like, but at the same time, if you will put it into isometric view, this will give a little bit different feeling from your work. It will look interesting. And also what you can do if we are talking about portfolio or your portfolio on Behance, you can create the entire landing page that will consist of different views of your work. Can you imagine you can design only 2 designs of the mobile app or just one screen of the website, and then you will put it in front of the people. Then you scroll down, you see who is working on this work, what was the problem, what is the solution. You will show the style guide for this work, and then you will show absolutely the same work, but in the isometric view. And while the design will be the same, the perspective, the view will be absolutely different. And because of that, people will love it even more. So use it to improve your presentations, to improve your portfolios. The next thing, of course, you can use illustrations in your design, directly in your design. So you can you can create the house like this one and put it into your app. And again, this looks completely different rather than if it was just front view. Front view will be, well, okay, but pretty boring, right? While here you see this incredible view of this house, and because of this black color, it gives this premium feeling. Everything comes into place, right? It seems like the design itself is in 2 dimensions, just front view, but the isometric shape, the isometric illustration gives the feeling of 3D. It's like you see the depth of this design. You're diving into the design. So keep this in mind when you're creating something. Maybe isometric projection will be a better solution for this work that you're working on. The next 2 works, really incredible. So here on the left side, we have the presentation of the SaaS solution. So just a service that allow you to do something, but the best way to represent this service will be to show it in the isometric view, because isometric also shows that something is not real, not like from the real world, but at the same time it gives the feeling of 3D, like again from the real world, non-realistic thing in the real world. And because of that, it gives this feeling of something new, something attractive, something different. And it's used a lot, especially in startups websites, in service websites, because it gives the understanding of what this project is about, for example, but at the same time, you don't associate it with exactly how it works. It just gives you the feeling, and that's exactly what you need. You just need to give the feeling and explain your startup, what your startup is doing, what your company is doing through the words, and the image will just improve the feeling from your website. And another way to do that is just to create something like a style guide in the isometric projection that will look just mind-blowing. I would say that Sasha Yermolenko here just created one of the best isometric designs that I've ever seen, because it includes glass effect, and includes volume, shadows, so many things. And today you'll learn how to create all these magic things. So no worries, we'll be talking about how to create isometric view. We'll be talking about how to create isometric typography, buttons. You will know it all. Let's go to the next examples. Here, another two examples where you can use it. It can be, as you can see, it can be something in these blue colors for the website that you need to trust because it costs money. And at the same time, it can be something simple, fun, that gives you just the feeling of it's easy to use. Simply just try it. It's so simple. But at the same time, because of this isometric view, again, you feel depth in this work, and you can dive into this project, and if you want to try it. The same example here. Most likely, if you go to Dribble, you probably, from time to time, you will see these 3D projections created in Cinema 4D or Blender, because, for example, the tools like Cinema 4D allow you to set the camera in isometric mode, so the camera will look at your design under 120 degrees angle directly to your design, and no matter what you will create, it will show you everything in this view. But for these things, you will need to use Cinema 4D or Blender. Today, I'll show you the technique that allows you to create 3D scenes, 3D store. And if you play just a little bit more with colors, with details, with elements, you will be able to create the same projections using just Figma. Yes, you will be able to do that. Just a little bit of patience, curiosity, and you will do that. Let's go to the next examples. Here on the left side, as you can see, this looks incredibly awesome, this work, and most likely it's created in Cinema 4D. But if you don't know Cinema 4D, if you don't want to buy this expensive software, you will be able to create it with Figma just using one simple technique. Actually, I'm gonna take it and show you how to create this particular example here in Figma. I'll show you later in where we'll discuss complex shapes. And you can create cities. And I would say, keep this in mind, that when you're looking at all these works, just put a note to recreate all these isometric things for practice. This will be a homework. For example, you can recreate this city. I'll show you the technique, and you will be able to do all these things by your own. Yes, it will take time, but it will be pretty simple for you, and you will love it. Trust me, when you start working with isometric shapes, once you understand the direction, oh my God, it's so amazing. It's really hard to stop. You just start doing it, and then it's like magic. So try to recreate something like this. Try to recreate the car. Try to recreate a plane. It will be a little bit harder. Most likely this work was also created with Cinema 4D. Yeah, I see the shadows, the colors. Yeah, for sure. And also water. But trust me, you can do this with Figma. You can create really amazing works, again, for presentations, for your portfolio, as the image inside of your design. For all these things, you can use isometric view, isometric projection. Like these cubes, this city. Also, as you can see, there is a name of this person who created that, so you will be able to go and take a look at this work closer, or make it bigger. You can put your icons in the isometric mode. Why it's important? Because when you go to the websites like ui8.net, where you can buy UI kits or Envato elements, if you want to sell more stuff, digital stuff as a designer, it's really important to know how to market, how to present your works in more like in a more powerful way. And isometric view gives you this way, gives you this possibility to present it in a more powerful way. Because when you put just, let's imagine you created the UI kit and you can put it in the front view, just showing like, hey, or like top view, no matter what you call it, but hey, these are the icons that you can grab, you can buy from me. But when you can present it in this isometric view, and then you go directly to your, when you buy this kit and you see that there is an isometric view projection that attracts your attention, and then the icons themselves, oh my God, this looks absolutely completely different. So that's why keep this in mind, that it can help you to sell your digital works better, and not only sell them, but also to present them. Like, oh yeah, like this kit, look at this. So you could put this UI kit just with a top view, front view, and it would be okay. It would be okay. But when you see in the isometric mode, it looks different. It looks attracting. You want to dive into this kit and to see at this element, to see this element closer. So that's why it's important to know about this technique. And of course, you can practice with all these elements for the website. If you're working with cryptocurrency, if you're working with service or servers or different digital solutions, isometric view is a really good thing that you can use. If you don't know, but Google use isometric view a lot for material design, to present material design guidelines, because it gives you the understanding of 3D. Look at this one. So we have 2 dimensions here, but there are 3 dimensions in this view, because here it's really hard to understand the elevation of the elements to show like the shadow is changing. But in isometric view, it's pretty simple to do. When we'll be talking about history of isometric design, you will understand why this projection appeared in the world, why people started using this view a lot, this design. But as you can see, yeah, you can use it for if you want to present something under a little bit different angle, and if you want to show depth and also the 3rd dimension. Here, you don't know how far this element from the surface. On the right side, you see exactly, oh, it's pretty far now. When it will be closer, the shadow will be will have less blur, and also will be a little bit darker. So this is the difference. This is what isometric view allows you to understand. And if you don't know, even not even, but pretty a lot, just a lot of huge companies are using isometric view on their websites and for their products. This is the image from Google. This is the image from the company called Simplease, and my website is with Simplease framework or theme for WordPress, and they use this isometric view to present what they have inside of Simplease. And as you can see, it doesn't look destructive. Instead, it looks interesting and attractive. And you see, didn't find what you were looking for. So the main focus is on the left side of them, on this section. But this section gives you additional feeling of understanding what's inside of the Simplease. So that's why it's powerful and important. When we'll be talking about isometric typography, I'll show you how to create that. I played with them when I created the logo for one of my companies, letter B. I played with the presentation of it because I wanted to show it on a little bit different angle. I was looking for for the ideas for my website, maybe I'll be using this in the footer section, maybe I'll be using somewhere in another section. So instead of putting it, the word let it be in front of the user, directly in front of the user, they will be able to see it, just a subtle feeling of this company without distracting them from the most important information. So use it for typography as well. If you've already taken the Boost Your Creativity Masterclass, you remember that we created this book, package, or anything. And actually in print design, isometric projections used a lot. And you think like, oh, it's just an image. No, basic. If we'll take a look a little bit closer, this element consists of lots of different things, but basically this is just a projection view of different things at once, as this one. Let's bring everything back. And boom, you see the direction projection of, let's imagine book. What if you are selling an ebook, or what if you are creating the website for the e-store, and you are working on the landing page for that has products with packaging. So you can create the package in the isometric view directly in Figma and present it to your client or present it to your customers. And it looks completely different and mind-blowing. For example, if you'll put it somewhere here and put the text, the most powerful ebook of 2021. And then let's make it bigger. Let's make it bold, like this one. We will put it here. Perfect. And then you have this book. So it doesn't look distracting. So the wording is not the best here, but anyway, so it doesn't look, this doesn't distract us from the book, but it gives absolutely completely different feeling. And this is why isometric view is so powerful and amazing. Let's take a look at some more examples. Isometric mockups, as you can see, it also can look incredible to present your ideas. This is also from Boost Your Creativity Masterclass. And yes, you can create these ebooks to present that there are lots of different copies. And when you will open this ebook, there is something interesting and a little bit different inside, something surprising, like a bonus inside. So that's why it's great when you know how to create additional things as a designer that will allow to present your works in a little bit different way. Marketing for a designer is really important. When you can create something, this is amazing. But when you can present what you created, this is mind-blowing. So keep this in mind, and isometric view can help you with that. And even companies like Apple use isometric designs. If you didn't know, if you go to iPhone 12 landing page, you will see this package, and this is how you can create this package yourself. As you can see, boom, 4 projections, and you have a full package of the box. Looks great. So let's learn the history of isometric design, and then let's go into the understanding how to create isometric view, how in the past, like even 5 years ago, people created isometric drawings, and then we will start practicing and creating amazing works. See you in the next lesson. Let's talk about the history of isometric design. Let's dive in. While in 15th century and even earlier than that, people didn't know about isometric as a word, as a term. They didn't talk about it. Isometric view already, isometric illustrations already existed. And if you will take a look at this image here, China, 15th century, and this is exactly isometric view. All the illustrations, all the images, all the drawings that were created in the past, in the Middle Ages, yeah, probably. So in 10 centuries, for example, 10th century, for example, all of them are presenting everything with a front view. We don't understand the depth. We can understand it only because the elements that are in front of us, they are hiding the elements that are behind the foreground elements. But in China, people started using isometric projection, isometric view, to give the understanding of depth, of 3D, of the third dimension, to show the room, for example, or to show the city, to show the life of people and see how different houses will look like. It was in 15th century, so people didn't know about isometric view, but they already started creating. Didn't know about isometric as a term, but they already created something in this technique. But in 19th century, there is a guy called William Farish. He created the sketches, the drawings, projections, isometric projections for his inventions. And we see here on isometric perspective, paper on isometric perspective, and optical grinding engine model. And he presented it in this way. Why this way? Because again, to show how the element, how the invention is working, it was really hard when you will present only the front view or top view or bottom view. So it's really hard to understand how all the elements relate to each other. But with isometric view, you can do that. You know exactly the distance. For example, you can understand the distance between different elements here. You understand the how they related to each other, how they work with each other. So that's why isometric projection became so popular in the past in engineering, in design, and also in architecture. These were three main areas where isometric projections were the most popular. And this is how it worked. This is how it looked. So here we have top view, and we don't understand what is that, right? It's really hard to understand what it just circle and the rectangle, and that's it. I don't know what is that. If we'll take a look on the front view, we see the rectangle and rectangle, but we don't understand the relationship between these items. How far the rectangle from another rectangle. And side view is absolutely the same, but in this case the rectangle is smaller. But when you put everything together, you will get three-dimensional isometric projection. You can get this image, you can find this image in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and you will see that two-dimensional projection looks like this, and it doesn't give us the understanding of the work. But when we're talking about 3D, it looks, oh my god, it looks completely different, and we know exactly, now we understand how it looks like and how it works. I have a friend, he is architecture, and once he showed me how they created isometric projections for their projects, and it looked mind-blowing. For me, it was like, wow, how do you do that? And he showed me that, first of all, you have different plans, like front view, top view, side view. And then there is the thing that allow you to point dots on the 30 degrees grid to recreate the building that he was working at. Mind-blowing. Just take a look at different examples and you will understand that this looks really amazing. Also, people started using this in the design, and especially in the industrial design. Because in the industrial design, it's really important to understand the volume, the depth, all the size of the object. And here we have this phone, and 30 degrees, everything is under 30 degrees. Remember about 30 degrees grid. And here we have this phone. And this phone, as you can see, we understand the depth of this phone. Without it, can you imagine you have a phone, you look at it somewhere in the magazine, for example, and you see only the front view that represent you only the front screen, and you think, wow, I love this phone, I need that. And then you go to the store, and the depth of it, can you imagine, like maybe 20 centimeters, and you can't even really hold it. But you saw it looked amazing. Now we understand that phones are really thin, but somewhere in 2005, for example, how can you imagine it without showing the side of the element? Of course, you can see it on the picture, but when you're drawing the sketches for your work, it's really hard to understand. So that's why this is how you can get it. And again, this is from the history of isometric view. And probably if you've ever seen the furniture instructions from IKEA, you understand, you saw already isometric view, because this isometric view gives you exactly the understanding of what we have from different sides. We understand the object. We not just see it, we understand the relationship between height, width, and depth. And there are two different views, like standard isometric projection, where everything is collected when you see just the design, and also exploded isometric projection. It's really cool also to use in the designs when you want to show the relationship between different elements, and web designers, mobile app designers also can use that. You can see it, especially when people putting something into the isometric mode projection, and they have the design, but the button is above this design. But basically, it's exploded isometric projection. Now you know about it. Most people don't. Let's go and see how to create isometric drawing, the math behind it, and then let's start practicing. See you in the next lesson. While this is not the practice part, this is really important to understand how to create isometric objects without plugins, with Figma, in just 3 steps. And then I will show you how people in the past created all these isometric drawings. I mean, in digital world, because in physical world you will need to use T-square and all this. No, different. Let's talk about digital world. First of all, I want to show you how to create isometric object without plugins with Figma in just 3 steps. It looks like this. So you have step 1, take your object, absolutely completely anything, any object, just take it, select it, and step 1, rotate it by 45 degrees. It can be clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. So instead of this direction, it could be this one. Later I will show you what's the difference between these two directions, but as for now, just keep this in mind. Step 1, rotate by 45 degrees. Then group this object. Simply group this selection. You selected something, rotated it by 45 degrees, group it. So it will be inside of the group. I'll explain you why it's important. And the third step, change the height of the group to 57.73%. Let me show you how to do that. Let's create here just a frame. Let's create a rectangle. Let's rotate it by 45 degrees. Group it together, Command G. And now let's go and change the height to 57.73%. Like this one, as you can see. And I'm changing the height of the group, not the element, the group. And press Enter. and we have isometric view. As simple as that. 3 steps and done. Isometric view created. Now let's take a look why these steps. Why exactly 5773? What's the magic between this 57-73%? And nobody is talking about that. I'll tell you. So step 1, step 2. Our object can have absolutely any width and height. It can be square from the very beginning, but it can be a rectangle, right? It can be really some complicated shape. It can be the combination of different shapes. And it will definitely have different height and width by default. But when we rotate it by 45 degrees and we group it, we make width and height of the element equal. What does it mean? We have, for example, we have this rectangle, 370 by actually 1215. We start with width 1215 by 370. As you can see, they're different. But when we rotate this object, you see, if I create the rectangle here, let's make it transparent, put it right in the middle of this object, and let's see that all the sides, yeah, perfect, somewhere like that. Yes, as you can see, because we rotated it, now we can put this object inside of the square. In this case, we are not putting it inside of the square, we just group it. Our group will be the square for this, the parent for this rectangle, which is inside. And because we rotated it, all the sides of the group now will be completely the same. And you're thinking, well, okay, right, it works for this shape, but what if the rectangle will be even bigger, like really tall? Let's take a look at that. Let's create something thin but really tall like this one. You see the difference between width and height, really huge. But when we 24 by 440, but when we rotate it by 45 degrees, the width and height are the same. Now let's group it, Command G. And now 328, 328. It's rectangle. No matter what you will take, it will be a rectangle if you rotate it by 45 degrees. So you got it. Step 1, step 2. Perfect. Let's go to the next a little bit. It looks complicated, probably, but let me explain you. I don't know about your school where you were teaching, where you were learning, but in probably 9th grade, in my school in 9th grade, we were learning tangents of different angles, or maybe it was 8th grade, don't remember exactly, but definitely at school. And what do we have here? Our object has 45 degrees angle. For isometric projection, as you remember, we need, it should be 30 degrees. Let me take a look. Yep. 30 degrees. Perfect. This is our square. This is our group that we created. If we put diagonal line from A to B, we know that the square has right angle, which is 90 degrees. If we'll put diagonal line, this angle is 45 degrees. And this is exactly the angle that of the object that we put here, because we rotated it by 45 degrees. What should be different here? Of course, 45 degrees, right? But for isometric view, for isometric projection, we need to have 30 degrees. This angle should be 30 degrees. How to do that? Let's talk about math. Tangent ratio is the ratio of opposite side to adjacent side of a right rectangle, of the right triangle. In this case, if we'll take a look at the triangle ABC, the tangents of 45 is the ratio between the BC and AC, which is tangent 45 equals 1. If you put into the calculator tangent of 45 degrees, it will be 1. Another understanding of that, if you will take a look here, we know that this is rectangle, square, and the square has the same size for all sides, right? You know about that, which means that the opposite side to adjacent side BC to AC, because they're absolutely the same, it will be 1. And this is BC is height of the first element here, of the first rectangle. But we need to make from this rectangle, we need to make it smaller. We need to make it narrower, not so tall. So we need to make this side, we need to understand how to create from this square, how to create this rectangle where the diagonal line will have 30 degrees. This is what we need to do. And to make the 30 degrees, we need to define the opposite side of the triangle ADC, the height of the isometric object, which means that this will be the height of the isometric object. How to define it? It will be DC, tangent of DC by AC. Let's take a look here. Tangent of 30 degrees is, if you again put it into your calculator, is 0.70, 57, 73, 51, and so on and so forth. So about 0.5773, or it also equals DC to AC, the opposite side to this side, as that. And DC is the height of the object that we exactly need to get 30 degrees. So that's why we just need to find this height. How to find this height? From this formula, it will be, if we'll keep DC here, AC will go on this side, it will be the height to, which is DC, equals 0.5773 multiple AC. AC. Or if you don't want to keep this ratio, if you don't want to put the formula, it will also work if you will multiply this side by 0.5773, it will also work, or just simply 57.73% of AC of this side, because AC equals BC. Let me show you the example that it works also with when we are talking about formula. So we know that step 1, rotate by 45 degrees. In this case, let's rotate the opposite side, so you will see that it works exactly the same way. Now group it. Step 2, group it. Now for the group, previously we changed it to 57.73%. This is important, percent. Or you can multiply it by 0.5773. And the result will be exactly the same if you change, for example, the height to 57.73%. Let's press enter. And we have isometric projection here. Works for both sides, and this is the math behind isometric view. Let's take a look closer at that. Here is the comparison of these two shapes. So we rotated by 45 degrees. DC, this one, equals 0.5773 multiple BC, multiple this one, because AC equals BC, and they are absolutely the same because we created square in the previous step, right? And this is how it looked like. So this is what we had before, and this is what we have in the end. And now we know exactly that this is 30 degrees because we multiplied AC by this number.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Sure. So the math behind... Come on, stop it. So the math behind isometric style is step 1, rotate by 45 degrees, group the object, so it will have 45 degrees, and then change the height of the group to 5773, and let me add here, or multiply it by 0.5773. This will also work. The only thing why I don't like to multiply, because in this case I will put formula and you will need to put more numbers. Instead, I just use 57.73% and it's much faster. This is how to create isometric projection without anything, without just using Figma. As simple as that. And now let me show you how people created isometric views in the past. And you will understand that this method is much easier and faster. See you in the next lesson. Hey. This will be pretty short lesson. I just want to show you how previously people created isometric projections, isometric illustrations. It was a huge trend in 2015, as far as I remember, or even 2017 maybe. I mean, isometric drawings, isometric illustrations. Today, it seems like it's even trendier than 2-3 years ago. Really, people use it more and more and more because now we have more tools for that. We have more ideas to show in this our works in this style. It looks completely different, so that's why it's really important. It's really cool to create something in isometric view, to know how to do that, even without plugins. I'll show you the plugin, but without plugins, you will understand the math. You will know exactly why you are doing it and why it works this way. But let's take a look how people in the past created, like in the past, I mean like 10 years ago, created isometric illustrations. People used 30 degrees grid, like this one, exactly like this one. As you can see, what do we have here? We have the lines, the vertical lines. Let's put them like this one. We have vertical lines, but we have grid where these lines have 30 degrees here. So here it will be 30 degrees and 30 degrees from this side, which basically is 60 degrees. But if we'll put horizontal line in between, you'll understand that this is 30 degrees grid. How they used this grid? They took pen tool. So here in Figma, you can also go and choose pen tool. I'll just click P, pen, and you put the dot here, then you move it to another intersection, then you moved it to another section. Let's imagine, let's go probably here, then you moved it in this direction and put it down. So you created the object. If we'll increase the size of the lines, this is how it looked like. Now you can change stroke and fill. I just click Shift X and boom, this is one side of our element. After that, if you want to create another line, you will go here, you will put your dot here, here, on this side, then here, close. Perfect. Shift X, but you will change the color to something different. And then you will create another shape here to recreate the cube. I don't know, even, yeah, I closed it. Shift X, F, 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 or maybe in this case, let's make it a little bit brighter. and we have cube. Now let's group them together, and you have a cube in isometric projection, an isometric view. So basically you are drawing using this grid. You can use just pen and paper, you can print it and use pen and paper and start drawing something. Actually, I remember that I used it a lot when I was really small, maybe 6 years old. I used just my notebook. It wasn't isometric, but I like to connect dots in my notebook. So this is what I did. And this is exactly what people used for creating isometric views, isometric projections. And as you can see, you have cube, all the sides, all the angles are equal, isometric, equal measure. So all the angles are equal, 120 degrees, and here we have 30 degrees, the ratio between all the axes. And if you will put this line here, this grid, you will see that everything is exactly related to this grid. So this is how people previously created isometric views using tools like Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, and that's basically it, mostly in these tools. Then, of course, some additional tools appeared, and even Illustrator today have isometric projection. Previously, you had to know how the formula behind isometric view and how to create this grid yourself. Today, you don't need to do all these things. If you want to create the grid itself, then you will just create the line. You will make the copy of it, duplicate it multiple times, combine it together, Command D, rotate it, combine them together, Command E, rotate them by 45 degrees, step 1, step 2, group it, step 3, 57.73%. Percent is important here. Enter, and you have isometric grid. If you want to create the vertical line, just simply create the vertical line. Move this vertical line exactly on the intersection of these lines that we had previously. As you can see, it's really hard to position my line right in the middle because I have snap to grid, snap to pixel grid. If you go here, click in the percentage of the view and click snap to pixel grid, put it off. Now you can move the line. These numbers will not be precise, will not be round, but at the same time you will be able to put exactly in the middle. So now copy this line, holding Option in this case. I'm moving this line to this intersection, and then I duplicate it by clicking Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D. I see that I missed one more line here. I'll do it again. And now Command D here again. And I will need to remove the previous one, but you got the idea. So this is how you're creating the isometric grid. Something is different here. Okay. I will need to make it a little bit better. But this is how you create isometric grid, and then using this grid you will be able to create absolutely anything if you want to use this method. But for you, what I recommend to do if you want to create the isometric cube, just simply create the rectangle, then rotate it by 45 degrees, group it, change the size to 57.73%. See, it wasn't percent, 57.73%. Done. So this will be our top view. Let's change it to this color. This is our top view of the rectangle, of the cube. Now what we will do, we can create another one, another rectangle. It's not the right way to do that. Let me show you if you want to create the cube. So you create, we need 3 sides. So you create 3 different sides. When you practice it with it, you will be able to create cubes and different shapes much faster. But I want to show you all the techniques so you will know exactly how to do anything. So you rotate this one by 45 degrees, Command G, and then 57-73%. Done. This will be our top view. Rotate it on the other side, Command G, 57-73%. Done. They look exactly the same, but how can we create the, in this case, the cube? Simply rotate the group itself by 60 degrees or minus 60 degrees and put it from one side. And do the same with the last side. Command G, 57-73%. Done. And rotate it. See, it doesn't work this way. Let's see on the other side. Boom, perfect, done. And then just combine them together. When you have snap to pixel grid, you will not be able, here, remember, snap to pixel grid, you will not be able to attach them together pretty close. So instead, switch that thing off, snap to pixel grid, and put these sides close to each other, and then simply change the colors to show the light, to show the volume. So this side will be a little bit lighter and this will be completely bright. And now we have the cube. So this is how you can create the cube today much faster rather than using pixel grid and recreating everything step by step. So we are taking 1, 2, 3, Command G. Now we have this cube. If you want to add shadow here, we will just put this element down, 0, 0, 0, and boom, we have shadow. Want to add effect, layer blur, 40. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And let's change the opacity to 20%. Or maybe in this case, 40% will be great. And now you have isometric cube with a shadow. As simple as that. Now you know how to how people created this in the past, and now you know that you can do this much faster and easier using Figma manually without any plugins. And if you want to go a little bit further and a little bit faster with isometric shapes, you don't want to put this 57-73%. I personally use almost in 99%. I'm using manual method because I can control it. But sometimes in just 1% I use plugins. What plugins you can use for that? Create a rectangle or just anything. So it can be a rectangle or it can be a square. And then go to plugins and find plugin called, not here, first of all you will need to install it if you don't have it yet, but if you have it, go here and find the plugin called isometric. Click on it and you will see this view where there is a direction, in what direction the isometric view will go. And if you want to go to the left side, you just click this line, boom, isometric view, done. But as you can see, it's also already in the group. And so this method, this plugin uses exactly the method that I showed you how to create it. But now you will be able to use the plugin. And boom, done here. Once you use this plugin, and if you closed it, if you need to call it again, and you created something again, another rectangle like this one, and it will be, for example, your button, 30 or even 40. This is your button. You want to go to isometric view, Command Option P. This will call the last used plugin and press one of these buttons, isometric view. You will be able to Command D, not Command D. Put it down, 0, 0, 0. And now you have button in the isometric view. These are two methods that you can use today. So now you know that you can draw it using isometric grid, 30 degrees grid. You can create isometric projection manually using the rule of 3 steps. Rotate by 45 degrees, group it, and change the height of the group to 57-73%. Or you can use the plugin called isometric. And welcome to the practice lesson. Let's learn how to create simple isometric designs, simple isometric illustrations and icons. While I called it simple, it doesn't mean that the result will be small. The result will be really powerful. The technique itself will be simple, but the result is powerful. You will learn how to create exactly what you see on the screen. Let's create it. How to do that? And keep in mind that when you know something that other people don't know, this is your competitive advantage. When you know how to create isometric designs and other people don't know how to do that, once you created your work and started sharing with people, people will start asking you questions. Wow, how did you do that? This is so cool. This is so incredible. But you know how to do that, right? Especially after all these lessons, after all these things that I showed you already. Let's create something simple with a simple technique, but with powerful result. And even this simple technique, other people don't know. At least not so many people know about that. What we will do here, we will create the frame. I will choose the color of what we already have because we'll create exactly what we see here. Let me show you how to do that. What we will do, we'll create the button. And the button will be, let's check that we have snap to pixel grid, okay. And the button will be 200 pixels by 48 pixels. This will be the button for Android phone. I will choose the radius of the corner 8. I will change the color of the button to FFF. And I want to make this button in the soft UI style. So I will add drop shadow, but for this drop shadow, we will use 4, 4, and 8 for blur. And for the color, we will use the color of the background, but a little bit darker, like this one. Perfect, done. Now we'll select the shadow, Command D, and for this drop shadow, we will use white. But the direction of it will be -4, -4. So now we see that we have soft UI button. So we have the reflection of the light here and the shadow on this side, which is pretty soft and looks really cool and amazing. Let's create another button that will have 24 pixels radius. Click, and boom, we have rounded corners here. This technique with adding new shadow, I'm explaining in the non-traditional ways of using Figma in another masterclass. So if you want to know more about these techniques, just get that masterclass. Here we'll be talking about isometric views and shapes. So we created two buttons. Inside of this button, we can put something like text, but we will discuss text in the how to create isometric typography. Here we'll be not talking about that because I don't want to overwhelm you with information. And another thing that we'll create the circle like this one, but I will copy the style of this button and we'll put the style on this circle. So now what do we have? We have circle, we have buttons, and the only thing, if you want to create exactly the same view as we have here, what do we need to do? We will put this button here. We know that the circle is a little bit bigger, like this one, just a bit smaller probably. Like this one, the button is here. On the one side, we have this button, which is bigger and wider. On this side, we have really huge shape, like this one, we have another view on top of it, which is smaller like this. And also we have another, this button is closer. We have another button here, and we have another circle here. We also have two blue circles. What we will do, we'll duplicate the ellipse that we already have. Here, fill, we'll switch it off. We will add stroke. The color of the stroke will be blue, like this one, and we will make it bigger, just like this. Then we'll duplicate this shape, put it right in the middle, and we'll make it even a little bit bigger. Exactly what we have here, or similar to that. And let's put these two guys to the bottom of everything, under all these buttons. And if you want to create the plus sign, then simply you can go and create exactly what is shown there. But for the simplicity, in this case, I will use one color. Plus sign, I create two rectangles, combine them together. And also let's make it the same color as this one, this blue. Perfect. So this is what we'll be using, and this is what we'll be transforming into the isometric mode. We combine everything together into one group, Command G. So this is our design. We see here that this is our group. Now to make them in isometric mode, and as you can see, I see a little bit difference here that these buttons are not white. So what we'll need to do, we'll need to select all these elements, select the color of the background. We'll go to color and make it brighter. The best way, the easiest way to make it brighter, go to the HSB hue saturation brightness color space and change the saturation, because the brightness is already 100%. Change the saturation to 2. Done. Or even 1. So now it's not white, it's a little bit bluish, but at the same time it's not so dark. So as you can see, we see that the difference between white for the shadow and the shape much better. So we take this design that we created. It can be your design, it can be the design of the mobile app or website that you created. Rotate it by 45 degrees. Step 1. Step 2. Command G. Even if you already have it inside of the group, Command G to create the rectangle. Remember, so the sides will be the same. Command G or Control G for Windows. So now, as you can see, the sides are the same. And now we will change the height to 57.73%. And I want to see if anything will go wrong, because I want to show you one important thing that you need to keep in mind when you are transforming anything into the isometric view. One important thing that you will need to know. Let's change it to 57.73%. Done. Everything is perfect. Everything is exactly what we see here. We can make it just bigger as there. And for this element, as you can see, this looks different. We'll just put here. We'll remove the white shadow, and this shadow will drop down like 40, even 60, 100. Yeah, like that. And the blue will be 120. Too much. 80. Perfect. And we will change the opacity to 50, for example. Oh, 80. Perfect. So now, no matter where you will put this shape, unless it's on top of all other shapes, you see it looks like real 3D. It seems like we're working in 3 dimensions. So you can put it somewhere here and it will look amazing and perfect. But one thing that I want to show you, so you will keep in mind that no matter what you're creating, if you have your design, let's imagine that you have the app with this color, and you have the button somewhere here, and then you have text. Let's actually group it together from the very beginning, and then we have the back button on this side, 3 rounded corners, round cap, the same color as this one, pretty huge, 2. We will put it here, make it smaller. Perfect. This is our back button. Here we have button at the bottom for our app. But what important to know that, as you can see when I click on this element, it's left top. I'm selecting this element left top, this one left top. What's the problem with left top for isometric projection? Because it's changing the ratio and relationship between sides. It's really important to convert everything that you have with left top inside of your design, and especially when you have text. For the typography, we'll be talking in a little bit different way, but especially for the text, we'll not be using it here. Just want to show you different things. Let's put the line on this side and on this side, just to show you the example. And let's make everything scale, but these guys we will keep left and top, and this one left and top. If you want the perfect isometric projection, everything should be scale. The constraints for the elements inside of the object that you are trying to transform into the isometric projection, everything should have constraints scale. But as you can see, these guys have left and top. Let's take a look how it goes. Let's create 2 additional lines at the bottom. Maybe for this design everything will work perfect, but I'm not sure about it. This will be scale at the bottom, and here left and top at the top. And this, let's imagine this will be your design that will be inside of this is your frame. So you created the design somewhere you created the design for the app, and then you decided to make a presentation of it somewhere. So you created in 1920 by 1080 presentation slide. You put your design inside of it, you copied it, you made it bigger, and you want to show it in the 2 different views, the front view and the isometric view, just to attract more attention. So you copy this element, rotate it by 45 degrees, group it, and change the height to 57-73%. Enter. And as you can see what happened. The elements that had scale constraints, they stayed exactly where they should be. But the elements that had top left constraints, they moved because they kept the same ratio. Will it show me? No, it doesn't show me the distance to this element, but it kept absolutely the same distance from top to the left, from top to the left, and the same here, from top to the left, the same. But the element is already different. So that's why it's so important to put everything, to change everything to scale inside of your design. Keep this in mind when you're trying to use isometric projection for your mobile designs or websites. Let's copy in this case. Let's rotate it by minus 45 degrees, Command G, 57-73%. Done. As you can see, everything is perfect now. This one is broken, this one is perfect. I wanted to show it to you because I know I had this problem a lot, but I found a way how to solve it, and I want to prevent you from making this mistake or having this problem. So that's why keep in mind that your design, everything inside of your design should have scale constraints for absolutely all the elements. And now when everything is perfect, of course, you can add some shadow like this one for your design. And maybe if you want to go to layer blur, 100, done, opacity 2, color bright like this one. So this is how you can present. Of course, I don't like this gray here, and this is not the real design, but just keep in mind that this is what you can do. Okay, make it bigger, put it somewhere here. This will be your design, and this is the presentation of this design. This is how you can present your ideas. I hope you got this and understand now how to create isometric projection out of your design, having something simple like these buttons, or having something huge like this design, or like your design that has lots of different elements. So now you are more powerful than anyone else, and you will prevent this problem with these constraints. If you want to do something like this is important thing. I'll just show you with just one icon, but you will be able to create it with just any icon. First of all, what we'll need to do, we'll need to create, of course, a rectangle that will have rounded corners. Inside of this rectangle, we will create simple close button. It will be 3, too much, 2, perfect. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Why it's 28 by 29, I don't know, but we will make it 28 by 28. Perfect. Let's make rounded corners. Round. Amazing. 2.5 will look much better. Put it right in the middle. Rotate it by 45 degrees. Yes, I like this icon. Now Command-Shift-O, Command-E. These are techniques not for... These are basic techniques, so I'm not going to teach them. And let's change the color to bright. That's it. So we have icon. Let's group it together. So now we have the group. Now we have the group, the same group as here. How to create now this view, this projection? I'll create 3 rows, and you will understand how to use it. Row 1. Here we will have row 2 and row 3. Command G. Let's create 3 rows. Command G. So it will be row 1, row 2, and this one, row 3. Done. Now I want to, let's move these guys here. I want to put these guys, the first and the third row, under one angle, and this one, these icons will stay. So what we will do, we'll take these guys, minus 45 degrees, separately, Command G, 57, 73%, done. I could do the same with this one, but because we have absolutely the same icons, let's make it. Okay, 57, 73%, done. So we have row 1, row 2. For this one, we will go on the other side, 45 degrees. Command G, 57, 73%. And you are thinking, okay, but how to, they not standing as these guys. Rotate them by minus 60 degrees, and now they're standing. As simple as that. Remember that. Sometimes I do this trick where I put the line, like, actually, let's make this line rotated by 30 degrees. Now I'll take this line and put it here. So now I know that my projection should be on this side and this guy should be somewhere here. Perfect. Now I can remove this line. What I will do, I'll take this row, duplicate it, we'll put it somewhere here. Inside of this row, I will remove all the close icons. I will take all these guys, we'll put them outside. And for the row, I will change the color to the color of the background, but a little bit darker. And let's find where it should stay, somewhere here. Now I can even make them a little bit longer. What I see here, that these guys and this one, they're not aligned with the guys with the row 1 and 3. So we'll make it like this. Perfect. And if you remember, we have also the shadow under these items, how to create them. Simply select all the elements that you have here, only the rectangles. Command D to duplicate them. Move them down, Command Option arrow down. So now they will be below this white thing. And move them down just using arrow and change the color to the color of the shadow that you just defined, like this. And congratulations, now you know how to create this amazing projection of these of the icons. And in this case, I use this icon, but as you can see, you can use different icons inside of it, and you can present this thing in your presentation again. So you can take these guys, for example, Command C, and they will be in your design. On the next slide, you will present your UI kit that will consist of the icons that you created. You can use it also for your dribble shot, for Behance, and the most powerful icon set. And let's make it 80, 80. This one, bold. In this case, medium will look much better. And powerful will be of this color. And icon set as well. Make it bigger. Actually, no, I like when it was smaller, like this. And here you will have the description, for example. This is how you can present your designs. And as you can see, simple technique, but the result is really powerful. The result is really cool. And you can present absolutely anything with this. Simply take this technique, play with this, find different examples of isometric views and practice. Practice with just simple shapes like rectangles. If we are talking about circles here, we also played with them. Isometric view. You want to go further, you can play a little bit more. Command D. Let's put them here. And as you can see now, our circles are even bigger, and this one will be even bigger. It's like a radius and lines that are going further and further, and the size will be smaller and smaller and smaller the further they are from the main object. Here we'll have 1. Here we will have 1.5. And for this one, we will have 2. Perfect. So this is how you present your ideas in the isometric projection. Simple but super powerful technique. Now let's learn how to create complex objects. Complex means that here we use just the technique. In the complex thing, we will create objects using this technique. Under different angles, I'll show you some interesting ideas and you will understand how to use them. See you in the next lesson. And welcome to the next lesson of isometric design and illustrations with Figma Masterclass. How to create complex elements in Figma, an isometric projection. Let's take a look how to create this store, for example, or this cube, or I don't know if you see here on the background, but let me change the color of this element and you will see that also we have the interesting grid on the background. And what's interesting with this grid, that if I'm changing the size of it, as you can see, it just changes. Probably those who took non-traditional ways of using Figma Masterclass already know how to do that, but I'll show here as well this technique, how to create these elements like this one, and how to create these objects like here. What we will do, we will start with bringing everything back like this, and we will start with cube. Yeah, it will be a little bit faster and you will understand the technique. Once you understood the technique, we will go and create something more complex like this house here. This is a simple store, but you will be able to create cities using this technique. With this one, you will be able to create something for the websites, for as we discussed already in the previous lessons, something for services websites or cryptocurrency services web apps. Let's create this one. How to do that? Of course, we will start with frame. So you create the frame. Then for this frame, let's choose the color, which will be this one. It can be any color, but I want to show you how this exactly was created. So that's why I'm using the color that I've already used to show this technique to you. So as you can see, always deconstruct when you are playing with something, when you're learning something, when you want to recreate someone else's idea. Deconstruct what you see into small things. Try to understand what they consist of. And what I see here, I see 9 squares. So let's create 9 squares. So we'll have one. We'll have another one with just small gap between them, like this one, 3 pixels. We'll create another one. So now we have 3 squares. So let's move in here, 1, 2, 3, perfect, and do this again. So now we have perfectly, we have 9 squares, exactly like here. But this one is a different color. It's a blue color. Let's set this color here. And this color is a little bit darker, so that's why I'm going here and move it to the top. We have this color, perfect. Now let's make the 3D projection. But because I want to save time, right? So I'll take 1 square, we'll put it outside here. This will be for our square. This will be our floor, and this will be our cube. Command this guy together. So now it's one object, rotated by 45 degrees. Command G, 57, 73%, done. And we have the floor. As simple as that, done, amazing, perfect. For this guy, we will do the same. Command G, 57, 73%, done. This will be our top side. Command D, rotated by minus 60 degrees, and we will put it here. And the bottom, done. And we will create another one, rotate it on the other side, and we will put it here. perfect. As you can see, we have gap here. In this case, what I do usually, I snap to pixel grid, put the pixel grid off, put all the elements together, like this one. Small gap is absolutely totally fine. But if you want to, you can close it like this. Now we have this cube, but because we want this cube to be a little bit visible, not just white, so we will make this side like this color, but close to here, and this side like this one, but also a little bit brighter. And you remember this technique for saturation, we'll use saturation too. So now we have this cube. It's really hard to see this cube, so let's group it together and put it on top of something, that is more, to make it more visible. Now what's interesting with this cube? Basically everything is done, but as you can see, we have the shadow here and we have also the reflection here. Let's work with reflections. This is complex objects, so that's why I want to show you a little bit more advanced techniques. How to do that? We will work with masks. Just follow these steps and try to understand what I'm doing. I will try to tell step by step what I'm doing. So we take this element. What we're gonna do, we will put this element into the group. Command G. Why I do that? Because now I'm going to work with this element. This is my group. I want to work inside of this group because I'm going to make completely different actions that I'm not going to apply to all other elements that are around this rectangle. I go inside of this group and duplicate this element 2 times. I'll explain you later why. 2 times. Command D, 1, Command D, 2. So now we have 3 completely the same rectangles in the isometric projection. What I'm going to do now, the one which is at the bottom, I'm going to transform it into mask. Use as mask. Click. Done. Now it's a mask. What does it mean? That when I take these 2 shapes and move them somewhere away, we don't see them anymore. But why I duplicated it 2 times? Because I'm going to make one of the shapes darker than another one. And let's put the cube somewhere to the top so you will see how you can create the depth inside of the isometric projection. We will make this element, which is on the top, we will keep it the same color, but the one which is at the bottom, we will make it darker, like this dark. You don't see it, you don't understand what happened, but basically the element which is at the bottom, now it's darker. Let's put one at the, again, switch on. What I'll do now, because we have mask, so everything here is inside of the mask. Inside of this mask, we have 2 elements. One is darker, another one is lighter. And now the one which is on the top, which is lighter, I'm going to move down using shift and arrow down. Shift and arrow down. And you see what's happening? You see it? It seems like this element going down, 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 down. Like the elevator. See, now it's really deep. So you can make it like this or that. And this is how you can create depth inside of the isometric already. So it's isometric, but you also create the depth inside of the isometric mode. This is mind-blowing and incredible. We can go even a little bit further. We'll take this cube now, we'll put it down to here, and we will show the reflection out of it. If you want to go really further duplicate this shape, move it outside of everything, somewhere here. And what you can do, change the color to blue, effects, layer blur, and 20. And put this element, all these groups and every elements on top of everything. So it seems like the light is going outside of this square. Now we need to make the reflection here. What we're going to do, again, we will use masks. Because we are using masks, it's better to group something, to put elements inside of the group and work with masks inside of the group. In this case, we'll know that this mask will not apply to other elements that we are working with. Cube, this side, what we will do, it's already inside of the group, which is perfect. We'll duplicate it one time, Command D, because this one will transform into the mask. Nothing changed, but as you can see, I can move it somewhere else and it will disappear because of the mask. But now inside of this group, we will create not a rectangle, but an ellipse like this one inside of this group on top of this mask like this. And we will rotate it somewhere here. We'll change the color to this blue and we will add effect, layer blur, 50. Perfect, amazing. And we will do exactly the same actions on this side with this side. It's already inside of the group, Command D, because when you transform something into the mask, this element disappears. The only thing that you have is a mask. We will put it into the mask. I will take this Command C. I will copy this ellipse from here and I will put it here. But we'll rotate it on the other side now and we'll move it down. And this one we will move a little bit here. And because this side is a little bit brighter, I'm going to change the opacity of this reflection to something like 60. So it will be a little bit brighter. And this is what we have in the end. This is what we have. We have the cube with the reflection, and we have this thing here that you can even animate it, but we will talk about animation in one of the next lessons. So we created one element. Perfect. Command G, one is done, like this one. Now let's create not the store. No, let's create the background. Let's see this background, like this shape. To create this background, what we will need to use, we will need to use the technique of creating the patterns. I explained this technique in details in non-traditional ways of using Figma, part of the Boost Your Creativity Masterclass. In this case, I'll just show you how you can create this particular pattern. What we will do, what we'll need to do to create this pattern, we'll create the square, like 100 by 100. Inside of this square, well, let's make the color with something weird, like this. Inside of this frame, we'll create the rectangle. Oh, it's really hard to work when elements are not when we don't have snap to pixel grid. We'll create another square, Shift X. So now we have just stroke. For this stroke, we'll put it 0.5 stroke, FFF, white color. But on each side, we also create the white even bigger. Let's make it even bigger, like this one. The white circle. Let's move it here. Command D. Let's move it down. Done. So now we have this element. For this frame, we will switch off the fill color. Now we have just the frame, object, rasterize selection, Command Option C, copying the style. Now create absolutely any object here, rotate it by 45 degrees, Command G, 57-73%, Command Option V, apply the style. And as you can see, now we have the style applied to this element. Everything looks really bad, like really bad. And you think like, what's the magic? The magic is when you click on the image instead of crop tile and 100%. And this is where you have now the pattern that you can use anywhere, like in this, on this element. Done. Looks already incredible. I don't know about you, but looks amazing. It can be used for the website or just anywhere. And if you want to make something even different, so what you can do, you can take this color, this one will be exactly the same color, but the opacity will be 0. And let's put this element now to the bottom. And why I created this gradient here. Let's take it, actually. Let's go outside, this element, gradient, and let's move it from this side to this one. As you can see, when I have the gradient, it will allow me to have the grid, the pattern here on the right side, but we don't see it on the left side. And this is perfect for the text. Boom. This is where you can use it. So the text will be much easier to read rather than here when there are lots of other elements, it's too noisy. Text is much easier to read here. And when we will change it to spectral, this is not the perfect font for this element, but yeah, yeah, why not? Why not? Of course, I have much more fonts. Manrope, bold, and for the text here. Looks already cool, but we will be creating the store now. So let's do that. How to create the store? We'll be using the same technique that we already used with this cube. So that's why we are going step by step. For this cube, what we'll be using, this color. Okay, for this store, what do we need for this store? Again, look and make the decomposition. You will see that this store consists of the cube. I'm not going to create the cube again. Instead, I'll just take this cube that we already have, put it outside, scale it up. Done. So now, as you can see, we have the hole here. How to do that? We will use the same technique that we used for this square. It's already in the group. Perfect. What we will do, Command D. This one will be our mask. The one at the top will be the color or the bright one. The one at the bottom will be the dark color. And now the element that is on the top will move down, shift down, like this. But as you can see, oh my God, everything doesn't work like supposed to be, because this element should be smaller than the top part of our store. What does it mean? What we will do now, we will take this mask, Command D, we will put it outside of our group, basically below, and we'll make it not a mask, but we will make the mask smaller, only the mask. Move it down like this, and now when I'm moving this shape down, this is what we have. This is exactly what we wanted to make for our roof of our store. Now, how to create these elements? And as you can see, the angle here is not the right angle, and it's totally fine. What you need to understand that the main shape of the object should be under 30 degrees angle, but not the main things can be under different angles. Like in this case, this part is not under this angle. How we gonna create these elements here? What we will do first, I'll take this element, and actually we don't need masks now for this one. I'll just duplicate it and make it smaller, like this one. I'll even put here 40. No, 40. Perfect. And we'll move it down so it will be exactly here. Now I take this element, Command D, and make it smaller. Make it 40. And also make it like this one. Perfect. So now we have these elements. We'll move them down a little bit and we'll change the color of them to dark. If you need just to make lines, you already know how to create them. But we want to add volume to that. So what we will do, we'll select these two elements, press K for scale, and scales them up. We'll make them a little bit bigger. Perfect. We made them bigger. We'll put them down a little bit more. And now what's the hardest part probably will be in this case. Now we will need to draw this connection to this cube. How we will do that? We'll press, first of all, snap to pixel grid off. We'll choose P, pen tool, and we'll click here. We will move this item to this side. Now we will go to this side. It's a little bit more complicated, but because we are going to use we'll be using not isometric shape, non-simple shape style, complex shapes. So that's why we will need to use here the pen tool. And how, as you can see, I'm just calculating how many cells we're using. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Let's go to this element and let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll put it here. We'll go to this side and we'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will be somewhere here. And now I'll connect these dots, Shift X, change the color to something bright like this one. Congratulations, you just created this element here. It can be a little bit further from the top, so you will see how it works. Let's make them a little bit longer. This doesn't work. If you want to change the shape of the element like this one, as you can see, when I'm moving this, it works fine, but when I'm moving it inside of the, no, everything is moving fine. But sometimes just keep in mind for the future, you can select the shape, go into the edit dots mode, press return to go to that mode, enter, and select the dots that you want to move and move them down. This is what you can do. But in this case, we will not do that. We'll just move them down here, up to this one, and we'll move this one. And we will check that everything is perfectly aligned. Perfect, done. Now let's create the windows and the door. To create the windows and the door, what we will do, we'll again, take this shape, Command D, in this case, we will make it a little bit smaller. We'll make it a little bit smaller like this one, or like this one. Perfect. I'll put this element, as you can see, we have depth here, and we already know how to create it, right? So I'll put this element into the group, Command G, select it, duplicate it 2 times, Command D, done. The element at the bottom will be our mask. The element here will be our window, and the element here will be our shadow from this window. So now I will move the top element to the right and to the top. And this is how I create windows. But I want windows to be brighter, so I will use this color and this color. Done. Like here. Oh, here I have them blue. Blue windows. Let's make them blue. And we will do the same on the other side for the door and for the window. Command D, Command G, so we'll be working inside of this group. Select it again, Command D, 2 times. The element at the bottom will transform into the mask. Done. Now, these 2 guys, what we will do, we'll select all these 3 guys. You see it changing the form. So what we'll need to do, we'll need to select one by one. So it means that I did something wrong. What I'm going to do, I'm going to step back. First of all, we'll define the shape, and only after that we'll duplicate it. So let's define the shape. We will make this door this big and this tall. Now I'll duplicate this shape again. We'll move it somewhere here because this will be our window, and I'm going to do the same with the window, but the window will be a little bit smaller like this. So now let's take this element, Command D, the one at the bottom will be our mask, this one will be our shadow, and this one will be our door. And now we'll move door inside. We'll move it to the left, just simply to the left. And we will do the same here. Command D, select the bottom shape, mask, this one darker, this one brighter, moving to the left. And this is our window. We can just move and play to define the same width of the walls. Done. As you can see, the story is almost done. It's exactly like here. How to create the bottom part here. I don't want to create something completely new when I don't need it. So that's why let's be effective and learn how to do that. I'll select this element, this one, and this one. I'll move them outside of all the groups. I will move them, Command G, we'll move them, oh my god, Command D. We'll move them down here. And what I'm going to do, I'll press K and we'll make it bigger. Like this one, exactly like it was used here. But also what I will need to use, I'll move it somewhere here probably. I'll need one more shape from the top here. Command C, go to the group, Command V, move it up, make it bigger so it will go directly from one side to another one like this. Perfect. Connected them together, and we'll change the color of this one to blue, and we will put the entire group below everything. And now, because I have for this element not like below even. I can make it dark like this. And here we have the store. And following this technique, you will be able to create the, let's group everything together. Command G. This is our house, our store, or anything. And using this technique, you will be able to create completely, absolutely anything. Let's select these guys. What do we have? We just have Command G, Command D. Maybe you will want to make a little bit more floors here, like this one. And you will be able to create the city. How to create the city? Again, you just create the map. In this map, you create streets like this one. Then select this line, make it really like this. Let's make 400. This will be our road, and we will have another road somewhere here that will have the same style as this one. This is our road. And what we will do, we'll take this road, 200. We'll take this road, Command G, rotate it by 45 degrees, Command G, done, yes, 57.73%, enter. This will be our road. And because we played with dots, we will be able to, I want to select this one, to move it and make it bigger like this, because this is our road. Done. Command D, let's make it 20, FFF, this will be one line, maybe like 50-50, perfect. And we'll do the same here, FFF, 20, and it will be straight line here. Like this. This is our road, and on top of our road, we'll put the store. We'll copy it, and we'll put it here. On the other side, we'll have another store, but this store will be one floor, and it will have different color. And when you started creating city, for example, then in this case here you will be able to play with colors. And for example, maybe instead of selecting everything, you will have the style guide for colors, and you will be able to do something. You will be able to change them simply by changing just one color. Let's use this one, yeah, blue. This one will change and we'll make it a little bit lighter, like this one. This will be the same. And these colors will be a little bit lighter also, and maybe also green, why not? But of course, in this case, these darker colors should reflect our green color, which is a little bit darker. And continue doing this more and more and more, you will be able to create the city, maybe without these elements, like this one. Here you have another one, and so on and so forth. Now you know this technique, and just simply go and recreate. Do you remember our examples like this city? This to create this house, it will be even easier because I showed you how to create additional stuff on the house. But for this one, it's just a rectangle with rectangles inside of it. You know how to do this? Simply go and practice. This is on you. And I'll see you in the next lesson where we'll be talking how to create isometric typography. What's up, everyone? Let's create isometric typography. I'll show you just simply two techniques we'll be using. The techniques we'll be using the same, but I'll show you just one thing to keep in mind. Let's create this thing like here, isometric typography. What we will need to do, we'll use the color, of course. We'll need to type something, isometric typography. Then inside of the Figma FFF, I'll go and change it to uppercase for letters. We'll have them here. And now I'll show you one thing to keep in mind when you are working with typography. Of course, it should be scale. This is thing number one that you need to keep in mind. Scale for isometric shapes, and especially for typography. But sometimes for typography, let's do this, maybe you will see it. Let's rotate it by 45 degrees. On the other side, this one, first of all, Command D, just in case. Now rotate it by 45 degrees, Command G, 57.73%, done. And as you can see, it jumped to the next line. To make it as a one line, you will need to extend the box in which the typography is to do this. This is one thing. If you don't want your text to jump like that, and you know exactly that you are not going to change this text, it's better from the very beginning to change the text into the shape. Command Shift O, transform it into the shape. So now it's just dots. It's not the text anymore. It's a shape. Not a shame, it's a shape. Command D, let's make it again, Command Shift O. I will rotate it, Command G, 57.73%, done. And now everything is perfect. You see what? Because we are working with the shape, there are no problems with shape. The only problem that now, when, for example, you will decide to change this text, it will not be possible. That's the only problem. But then I'll show you how to play with text. But here, when you know exactly that you're not going to change it, just simply use what you already have. Let's play with this one. Shift V maybe, rotate it again, and put it. I'm just flipped it vertically. I hope that you will be able to understand this. If you didn't, please think about it. I can show you it again. I made it really fast, but I want you to think about it, what I just did. Because it's really important for you not only follow the tutorial, but also learn and understand how things are done. Maybe you will practice and will find completely different ways how to do that. So I flipped it, rotated it, and now I'm going to change the color to 000. And what else I'm going to do? I'm going to select the shape itself. We'll make it longer like this, and I can even make it long like this. Isometric typography, and you can use it in your graphic design, in your web design, for example, if you want to present something in a little bit different way. And another thing that I'm going to do, of course, I need to put this text behind the text that we have there. Combine it together. It looks incredibly awesome already. But also we can use gradient, but in the opposite direction, like this. And let's make it just a little bit shorter. And in general, the entire typography, maybe here, the gradient will be 50 or even 20, like this. And now you have isometric typography with a reflection or with a shadow. Also in isometry, it looks cool. For this text, I used absolutely the same technique. You will be able to do that. Just the only thing you can't change this text. If you need to change this text, if you remember, I created the copy from the very beginning, Command G. I will take this typography, let's change it to something like 40, just smaller to show you. We will rotate it, Command G, 57, 73. Now we have 2 lines, but we will just increase the area. Inside of this area, the text will have space to put everything into one line. What we will do, we'll rotate it now. We'll put it here. But now, because it's still text, we can make it 80. See, we don't have space for that. That's totally okay. We'll increase the space for this text. Maybe we'll do this even. And now I can change it to something else, and I can type in the isometric mode. Yes, I can type in this mode, like this. Simple and powerful. Command D, Shift V, rotate, move, put it down, below, copy the style, paste the style, and we have amazing and powerful things. But in this case, of course, for this text, I will not be able to stretch it as in the previous example. This is the power of knowledge of 2 modes. Like this text, let's take these 2 guys. This text I can't change because it's already a shape, but I can stretch it. I can make it really tall. Looks great. This text I can't stretch, but I can type whatever I want. This is how powerful it is, and don't forget that you can still use absolutely the same things that we used already. You can use masks, and you can create something on top of everything, like here. We'll put this one here, and we'll use different color, like this. Rotate, make it smaller, put it down inside of this group, and this is where you have this typography. Looks nah. Actually, it's pretty good. It's a good connection between these 2 colors. Yeah, nice. So now you know the technique how to create simple isometric designs. Yes, they're simple. The technique is simple, but the result is really powerful. You know how to create complex shapes, which is really amazing. And now you know how to work with typography. As you can see, I used the grid that we learned how to create in the previous lesson. You can put it here, make it really bright. You can remove this pink from here. And this is how it looks. If you don't like the gradient, simply change it to solid and make it 100% to make this pop. As with logo, remember. Now you know all these techniques. Great. The next lesson, I'll show you how to animate isometric design, just 2 techniques as well. And the final lesson will be bonus one. It will be available for those who will do some specific actions, but this is what you will be able to create directly in Figma, isometric mode, but really powerful result. So you will know how to do all these things. Now we will dive into the how to animate isometric design. See you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we will create the C letter in isometric projection, but it will look like 3D glass effect letter. Exactly, 3D in Figma. And with all these reflections. Looks incredible. Let's do that. The method that I'll show you will not include shadow. This will be in another lesson. And what else? The method that I'll show you in this particular lesson will be manual way to create that. What does it mean manual? That you will be able to create it in absolutely any other tool, because we will not use any plugins. In the next lesson, I will show you how to create 3D letter using plugins. So first of all, we'll start with letter C. So we'll put it C here. Absolutely, it can be absolutely anything. If you want to create 3D, just type 3D, type whatever you want. But because I'm going to make it to show you the technique, you will be able to recreate it further for absolutely any other shape. So we created letter C. What we're going to do is Command-Shift-O to convert it into the shape, rotate it by -45 degrees, group it, and then we'll change the height to 57-73%. Done. So we have not 3D, isometric letter C. Let's change the color of it to something like blue. Just absolutely anything. Go, and you can choose any other color, but because we are going to recreate this one, this shape, I'm using this blue. Now select the letter C and using Option or Alt key, move it up. The further you will move it from the previous letter, from the previous one, the bigger the volume, the depth you are creating for this C. Like here, it can be really huge, like here, and then this will be a huge C, looks more, that will look more like a cylinder. But here we are going with this kind of shape. Now let's change the bottom layer to something darker like this. So we will see that something is on the top, something is at the bottom. Now what I'm going to do, we have the top edge and the bottom one, but we need to create the middle one. To create the middle layer here, like here, for this hamburger, what are we going to do? We're going to copy this one more time, Command D, and we will duplicate the bottom one, Command D. The very bottom one layer here, we will change the color to something even darker, like this. This will be our shadow for a future version. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select two letters C in the middle. This method will be a little bit like look complicated, but because we're gonna create something really cool, that's why it takes a little bit time. Just follow it. Maybe with a plugin you will love the effect with the plugin, but then I'll show you the difference between using the plugin and manual method. So I'm selecting these two middle layers, and let's move them to the right, just so we will see what we're gonna do. So we're selecting them and moving here. Here we have top layer, we have the layer for the shadow, and this will create, from these two letters, we will create the middle layer. So we have two layers. What we're gonna do, we'll first of all combine them together. Flatten selection or Command E. I'll use Command E. Boom. Now we have this one layer. This is just one layer. But now we'll start creating the depth out of this thing. How are we going to do that? We will go into the dots mode. We will click enter or return. Now we'll see all the dots, and we will remove all the lines and the dots that we don't need, and we will keep all the dots and lines and join the new ones that we need to recreate the 3D layer. What I'm going to do, let me show you what I'm going to do with this one on this example. And then I'll show you why I'm not using this method for 3D shapes. Not 3D shapes, for glass effect shapes. What are we gonna do? We'll create something like this. I'll move it here. Done. Shift X this color, and using pen tool I'll create the volume on another side here as well. Just using manual methods, we are creating the shape using pen tool. Done. Shift X, move it to the bottom, change the color, and boom, congratulations, you just created the 3D letter. This will be more than enough for you if you are using just these colors. Now let's combine them, all these shapes together. Command E, and now we can change the color to whatever we want. And basically, you already created 3D letter. Perfect. This looks great. But the problem will be when we will start creating the 3D glass effect from that, we will see some really weird things. I'll show you just in a second. But first of all, what you should know that if you want just to create 3D letters without glass effect, this is more than enough. Just create the middle layer and connect the dots so it will replicate the 3D world, 3D nature of this layer. As simple as that. But what if we're gonna change it to glass style effect? How to do this glass effect? First thing that I will do, I'll transform this one. I will add effect background blur. Effects, background blur. Let's change to 20. We'll start with 20. We're always experimenting. And we will change the opacity of the fill layer to something like 60. And boom, you see? Now we already have this 3D effect. Cool. But also we're gonna apply this 3D effect on this layer as well because we see the background here. So we are copying background blur from this layer. If you don't know all these techniques, this lesson is not about these techniques, about background effects and all these things. All these things you can learn from Boost Your Creativity Masterclass. Here we are talking about isometric shapes. So some things I will not explain to save your time. So I copied the style of the background blur effect from that layer and I will apply it here to this layer. Done, but I'll change the layer opacity to this one. And as you can see, now let me change. As you can see, we have so many weird shapes here, like this one, this one, this one, because all these dots are still here. And Figma doesn't connect them together into one shape that consists of only one, like combine it in the real 3D effect. It holds all the dots that you had previously. And it's really weird that we have all these effects. And if you will try to change it to something like this or this, we will still have these lines that we don't like. Of course, you can remove this effect and maybe this will be enough for you, 100%, enough for you to have the 3D layer effect where only this one replicates the 3D nature of this object. But we want to go further and create something really cool, right? So that's why let's do that the right way. So first of all, I'll remove the middle layer from here. I will keep this background blur for this layer, but let's create the middle layer the right way. So we combine two shapes together, two C's, the top and the bottom, go into the dots mode and remove everything that is inside that doesn't reflect the 3D nature, like this layer is in 3D mode, in 3D projection. Maybe it looks complicated, but please follow the steps that I'm creating here. This will train your brain to work with more complex shapes. And you will understand that this is not as hard as it seems. It just takes time, a little bit of time and practice. So that's why I strongly recommend you to practice. So let's select the lines and remove them from everything from here that are not related to our 3D shape. The first thing that we will do also will connect some of the lines. So we created line here, we created we'll create the line here. Perfect. Let's create connect the dots. This one with this, not connected, with this one. And let's create one more connection between this one line and this one. Done. So now we can remove everything that is not creating. Oh, let's create this connection here as well. That is not creating the 3D nature of this shape, which means that we need to remove this line. We don't need this one anymore. This one. This will remove everything that is in the middle. Yes, like that. We don't need this one anymore. So we are removing all these lines that not creating the 3D layer. Do we need this line? Actually, the only thing that we need here is we create the dot here, and everything else we can remove. Like this, these two shapes, and these two, even three. And ta-da! Congratulations, now we have this layer. But as you can see, we don't have fill layer. Don't be afraid if you don't see anything. Just add fill layer, and now we have fill layer here. Now we can change the color to something else, maybe something like this. And now let's move it inside, in the middle of our shapes here. You just need to find the right position. And boom, something like this. Yes. So now we have this layer, this one, and we have layer at the bottom, which is dark one. What are we gonna do? This will be our shadow, which means that we'll make it a little bit darker. But this one will be our bottom layer. This our top. We already have background blur effect here. Let's apply background blur effect on this layer. Let's copy it from the top one. Command C. Select Command C. Select Command V. And let's change to 50. And boom, congratulations. Now you have real 3D letter effect, exactly as we have here. The only difference is in colors. So you can play with colors a little bit. You can play with the bottom color here. You will see how it will change the nature of the shape. You see how it's changing here. You can go with different colors that will be inside of your shape, but in this case, the best color is something here. Perfect. And now if you want to create this stroke, just simply add stroke for this layer and change it to inside and make it, for example, white. And also you can change the opacity to something smaller like this. Or as I created, for example, for this 3D, and in my opinion, this looks even better, remove the stroke and add inner shadow, but make it -1, -1, 0, white color, and 100% opacity. And this is what we have. 3D glass effect layer. You can also make the inner shadow -0.5, -0.5. So it will be thinner, like this one. And let's change the color a little bit, like make it 60 maybe. Perfect. See what we just created? Let's make it K. Let's make it bigger. And now we have 3D effect here, but this one has shadow. The only difference between these two layers is that this one has shadow. And you already can create this shadow from the layer that we already created, 100%, and move it a little bit down, like this one. Or I will see you in not the next one, the next after the next one lesson, and I'll show you how to create this shadow that goes down inside of it. But at least you know exactly how to create 3D glass effect layer. Just play with colors, and that's it. See you in the next lesson. In the previous lesson, I showed you how to create this 3D glass effect isometric C letter manually. Now let's create something like this, similar to this, using plugins, because there is a really good plugin that allows you to create depth for absolutely any shape. But the problem with that, I already showed you in the previous lesson, that all the dots, it will have all the dots. Sometimes it looks really cool, sometimes it can create really weird effects. It depends on your goal, but let me show you how to do that. First of all, what are we gonna do? Of course, we'll create the letter, transform it into the shape, rotate, Command G, 57-73%, done. But now, instead of keeping it in the group, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this group to frame. So I'll go here, group, frame, and I'll explain a little bit in a second why. So now we have this C letter. I'll duplicate it one time. This will be our shadow somewhere there. For the frame, clip content, no. And now we have this shape. Let's move it on the top. This one and the shadow. The shadow will be the purple one. Yes, perfect. Now I'm selecting the top layer and go to right click, plugins, and find the plugin called Oblique. You will find it in the community mode, and then install it and use it, Oblique. You will see something like this. This plugin allows you to create 3D shapes, like for absolutely anything. It doesn't mean that it will apply only for isometric shapes, no, but for this particular case, it will work perfectly. We will change the radius, not the radius, the rotation, the drop, shadow, whatever you call it, to 90%, so it go directly from top to bottom. This is the size, the height of this object. Let's make it, I don't know, 30, 40 pixels. The color of it, of this thing, will be, let's keep it black, we'll change it later. And let's group projection. Once I will do all these things, what you need to remember here, 90 degrees, the height that you want to move it down, the color that you need, you can change it whatever you want, and group projection. Usually I group projection because it will project you lots of different shapes. I like when they are in just one group. So group projection, that's it. You don't need to know anything else. Project, let's click it, and boom, it creates for you the perfect middle layer. See, as simple as that. In just one click, you don't need to create 2 layers and everything. Perfect projection. Looks great, right? Nothing to worry about. The shadow is already here because we created it earlier. Everything is perfect. But now let's do the things that 3D effect. Let's change this. All these layers, as you can see, we have lots of layers here. Command A, and let's change the color to the color that we had previously, like this one. Now let's apply effects, background blur, 20, 60%. Copy for this one, paste for all the layers inside, Command V, and then change to 50%. And almost everything is perfect here. We also see the shape here, everything, but as you can see, there are some, not bugs, but weird things with this color. That's the only problem with this plugin. And even if you combine these shapes together and press Command E, combine them together, you will still have them. Not here anymore, they combine, but you see it here. From one point, it looks real. It looks amazing, it looks cool, and you can use it. But sometimes it can create really bad effect, and let's make it minus 0.5, minus 0.5, like in the previous one. FFF, and 80%, 0, perfect. So we created this 3D glass isometric shape. If I move it away, as you can see, we have this one here. Looks incredible, absolutely. I really love it for this shape. It looks perfectly. But for some shapes, it can create really bad effect. So that's why I recommend you to know at least about the manual one and this one. And now let's just simply change this color to something darker, like this, and the bottom layer for this one also something bluish, maybe this. Okay, 30%, 50, 40. Yeah, perfect. Now let's select everything together. Okay, increase, and that's it. If you remember, we transformed this frame into this group into the frame. Why I did that? Because when you work with plugin oblique, right click, plugins, oblique, and here we'll make 90%, the depth 100, for example, color black, and group selection. When I project it, as you can see, it's not here. Why it's not here? Because it applies, it works for the frame, not inside of the group. And the only frame that we have here is this one, the parent frame. So that's why I transformed that group into frame first, so the projection appeared inside of that frame. This is the thing that you need to keep in mind. But when you need to create just anything like this, just simply go and create 3D letters now. Yeah, as simple as that. Using manual method or using plugins. As you can see, the difference between manual method and plugins is in this. Let's remove this one. Is in this thing here. That we have the transparency here and we don't have it here. Everything is perfect. And what else? If I'll move it away, we have the transparency there, but we don't have it here. So sometimes, for example, when you need it, you can go with just this effect and it looks incredible. But sometimes when you need something with top, just go with manual way and it will save you lots of time. So you don't need to recreate something again. And this 3D effect created with plugin. You can see I have the plugin here, 3D. For example, I don't like how 3 looks here, really bad. And here also I have this projection. I'm not a big fan of that. For me, it's a bug, but if you like it, go with it. And if you want to go a little bit even further, what else you can do? You can create white here, white ellipse here, and white ellipse here. And let's remove them and move them below. Where's our shape? Move them below our layer here, and let's increase the transparency 20. No, in this case 40, but let's reduce the background blur to 10. Yeah, 5. Okay, 10. Something that you will like this one. Okay, I wanted to create like it's you know, like bubbles of the air inside, but it doesn't work this way. So if you want to create these bubbles, it's better for you to put these circles on top and just change the opacity. And as you can see, like something is inside of there. So you can play with that. But now you know 2 techniques to create 3D layers. Now let's go to the next lesson and learn how to create these shadows that are going down. Mind-blowing. 2 lessons about shadows. Welcome to the next lesson about where we'll be talking about shadows. How to create this drop shadow like here. The very first thing, if you remember that we created the shadow layer here already. Not for this shape, let's select for this one. So we have this shadow layer. The first shadow, just simply create layer blur, and that's it. And move this, not this one, and move this layer down a little bit. So it will be below the shape, so it will create the effect that this shape is exactly already on the floor, like this one. Yeah, it's already on the floor. Perfect. Now let's create this effect. How we're gonna do that? Manually, we'll select this layer for the shadow, and we will duplicate it and move it down a little bit, like 5 times. It depends on the size of the shape that you're creating. And now duplicate it multiple times, like 5, 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You created these layers, and now starting from the top one, or the very bottom one, change the opacity to 4. Select the next one and change the opacity to 5. The next one to 6. The next one 7, 8, 9, and the last one 10. And congratulations, now you know how to create the shadow manually. And you can play with opacity, you can play with layer blur, you can play with all these types values. You can change also the colors. Let's select all these shapes and let's change the color to absolutely anything. Maybe you'll go with this one, but of course it doesn't look real, so let's go with blue, because it will look more realistic, like this shape. Perfect. So now everything is great. The very top one here, I want to be darker, just because it's really close to the floor. So that's why I want it to be darker. Everything else is just a kind of reflection of our shape on the floor. And that's it. This is how you create 3D layers, 3D shadows that are going really down from the letter. And in the next lesson, I'll show you how to create it faster with plugins. But at least you know how to create manually. See you in the next lesson. And now let's make the shadow using plugins. And the plugin that we will use, really powerful. I love it a lot. And you will love it too. Select the shadow that you created. Go right click plugins and find the plugin called Smooth Shadow. Click on Smooth Shadow and boom, it already created the shadow for you. Maybe you don't see it just because make the alpha a little bit bigger, like this one, and change the color to something that you like. This shadow, the color that you want to have. Back and press apply shadow. That's it. And boom, you have absolutely soft, beautiful shadow for this object. Specifically for this layer, you can change the color a little bit. Yeah, because we're changing the color for this shape, and also add additionally layer blur. Layer blur. 10. So now you have the cast, the drop shadow, the shadow itself, oblique shadow, and you have the cast shadow, which is on the bottom. In just a couple of clicks, you have this 3D layer. If you like this stroke better, just simply add the stroke. One inside, white color. Perfect. And let's change the opacity to 40. Done. That's it. It's so cool, so great, and now you know all the techniques, manual and plugins. Of course, as you can see, it's much easier to work with plugins, but what if you're working with a tool that doesn't have plugins? You need to know how the technique works. So that's why I explained to you both manual and plugins technique, and just practice and achieve great results. Please share with me what you will achieve with that, because it doesn't mean that it applies only for letters like 3D, C here. It applies to absolutely anything, whether you are creating even something like a cube, 73%. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna use this color. We're gonna change the group into the frame. Select this layer, right click, plugins, oblique. We're using everything together now. I missed it. Oblique. 90%. For this layer, let's go with 30. Group selection, project, done. Select the frame, clip content, remove. Done. Now let's select this layer, all the layers. Command E. Duplicate this one to create the bottom layer, because we need it when we will create the... You can use it actually, this oblique plugin, to create boxes as well, like cubes. Just make this height much bigger. In this case, I set to 30, but you can make it like 100%. It will be a cube. So now let's add background blur, 20, 50. This color will be this one. Effects, background blur, 20, 60. And now you have glass. Almost real. Everything depends on you. You can just play with this background blur option and also the transparency of this one. That's it. That's the only thing that you can do and play with. 30, okay. 10, nice. Let's make it a little bit lighter so it will change. And the bottom layer to the top, just to create the opposite side. You can move it here, just glass effect, glass cube. And this one go here. Effects, layer blur, 10, darker because it's shadow. I don't like that we see the shadow here, so that's why duplicate, remove layer blur, move on top a little bit. That's it, and the color light. Now you know all these techniques and all the plugins. Congratulations, and please share your works on Instagram, YouTube, Behance, just everywhere, Dribble, share your works. The more you share, the more you want to create, more and more and more. This way you practice your skills. Do that and share your works. Congrats, you know all the techniques.